What's going on, everybody? Today I'm going to be reviewing a film that one of my subscribers asked me to review. Today we are going to be doing the first installment in the Cabin Fever franchise, Eli Roth's 2002 directorial debut, Cabin Fever. Another quick note is Eli Roth actually also plays a character in the film. He plays a character named Grim. So this film starts with five friends, five students, college students, who are just finished up their term and they are heading off for a vacation. They decide to go to a cabin out in the middle of the woods that's next to a lake and have a good time, party the entire time they're there. Sounds a little bit familiar, doesn't it? When they're there, they come across a hermit who has contracted a flesh-eating virus. They have a couple encounters with the hermit through the film, and I'm not going to go into each and every detail, because if you haven't seen the movie, I don't want to spoil the entire thing. The hermit ends up dying, and he dies in the reservoir. That's where his body falls, and his body is polluting the reservoir with the virus, and so it spreads through the drinking water. As it starts to infect each and every member of the group, chaos ensues, and they turn on one another. They are afraid of one another. They somewhat stick together with one another, depending on who we're talking about. And just things start going bad in general. They're trying to find help. They're trying to get out. But yet, things always happen to where they are deterred. As the virus starts to pick them off one by one, they get more and more panicked. Their friendships are very much tested, and you get to see the true color of these characters. So some of the pros that I want to talk about in this film is this is a overall pretty entertaining film. I'm going to go into some of the sequels and things like that, what they do in the later videos. But overall, this is a pretty entertaining film. It definitely is a unique film in its own right, but it does also borrow from certain things. You can definitely tell that Eli Roth borrowed from, let's say, the Evil Dead movies. You can tell that he borrowed from infection films. But when I say this film is unique, he does borrow those elements, but he does them in such a way that not only does it kind of give a salute to those, it does them well. It's not just a copy. And that's something I want to get into in one of the films that I'm going to review as part of this series later on. Is there is no just straight copying in this movie. And as I said, this was his directorial debut. He also, I believe, wrote the film. And you can definitely see that he was trying to make an impression. He was trying to break into the business. And he put a lot of effort into this movie. And I actually like this movie quite a bit. As I said, one of the pros to it is it's just flat out entertaining. The effects are pretty decent and it's mostly practical effects. But like even the effects of the flesh-eating virus and the things that it does to the people, the makeup is done very well. The effects are done very well. The gore level in this film is pretty through the roof. If you're looking for a good gory time, this is a movie for you. If you're looking for a traditional horror film, slasher genre horror film, this isn't your movie. There is some elements of those brought into it vis-a-vis a story that one of the characters is talking about. And that character is named Paul, and he is played by Ryder Strong, who you may remember if you're my age from Boy Meets World. He played Sean. He played the best friend in Boy Meets World. And honestly, the only reason I really remember is because I had the biggest crush on Topanga, and I watched every episode of that show. One of the biggest pros in this film to me is the characters. There are five main characters in this. There's Paul, Jeff, Marcy, Karen, and Brett. Now, Jeff and Marcy, they have a relationship. They're together. Karen and Paul have been into each other for years, but they're not together yet. And Brett is the stupid, overdone fifth wheel character who you can tell is going to die you can tell that he will, it's one of those things that happens in horror movies where they have a character who's just completely out there, completely idiotic, and he's that character. And it's his actions that really start a lot of the stuff in this film. But the characters, the acting, in my opinion, is pretty good because you really sympathize with Paul's character. You like Karen, and as for the other three, you can't stand them. Especially Jeff, shows his true colors as the movie unfolds, and it gets to where seeing these people get eaten by this flesh-eating virus is almost gratifying. You want to see it happen to them. They're not exactly what I would call, in the end, good people. But I think when this kind of stuff happens to people, it truly shows who they are on the inside. As for the negatives of this film, there isn't too many negatives to this film that I want to go into. There is some negatives in one of the later films that relates to this film. I will get to that film when we get there. So, about the only thing I can speak for as far as the negatives go in this film is some of the plot is just a little convenient. It is, it's kind of predictable as to where it's going to go. You can see it happening. You know what's going to happen. And it's not too hard to figure out everything that's going to happen before it happens. That's pretty much the only negative I can say in this film. I actually really enjoy this film overall. It's a really good, decent film. One of my favorite parts of this film is when they're driving to the cabin. They stop at a convenience store that's owned by a bunch of local hillbillies. And one of the hillbillies, they ask him why he has a rifle. And he tells them it's for the explicitive deleted for, bad remark, bad name for African Americans. So they're like, whoa, this is a racist hillbilly, let's get the hell out of here. And then at the end of the movie, and this, keep in mind now, this entire movie has been pretty serious for the most part. As far as like the tone of the film, there are goofy characters, of course. There's goofy things that happen. But the seriousness of the movie stays intact. The tone of the film is not dark as far as the visuals, but it is a dark and serious tone because of what is happening. They never stop and just make it a joke. At the end of the film, there is a huge right turn where, they're at the they just show the convenience store. There's kids there. They're selling lemonade that's made with the contaminated water. And a bunch of black guys walk up. And they go into the store and they greet the store owner, and he greets them like they're old friends. And they start using that term in reference to each other. And he gives them the rifle. So the joke was that while you thought it was a racist thing and he was a racist, it turned out that it actually was just their way of talking to each other. And they were all funny. And they're all friends and they're all boys. And then at the end of the film, it shows all of the people sitting around on the front porch playing some banjo music and just having a good time, having a little party, while a truck that belongs to a local water company that gets its water from that reservoir drives by. Showing that this, of course, will continue. Kind of drops that little hint for the sequel, And to me, I found that to be really funny, really amusing, especially after the movie was so serious. The movie is very fast-paced. It doesn't really give you time to get bored. So, all in all, this is a pretty decent outing. It's not one of my favorite horror films, but it is a very good horror movie. So, I know you could just hear it. My fridge just kicked on. I'm sorry. I hope that doesn't interfere too much with the sound. So, but that's pretty much it, guys. A big shout out to Fago Warrior. Thank you for the suggestion. I will get the rest of this franchise to you as soon as possible. Have a good one, guys.